1. Background. This happened about 4 years ago during my freshman year of high school. I was in a relationship with the RLB, our rumor-spreading Legbeard. I had known her since 6th grade. She had very minor Legbeard red flags, obsession with anime characters, refusal to bathe regularly. I wasn't one to judge. At the time I was a huge people-pleaser, so when she asked me out I felt obligated to accept. I was also quite shy and had a lack of confidence. We dated for several months. During that time she never wanted to go out on dates. She insisted on hanging out at my house so she could try to get me to like anime. She also constantly told me about how much she was into yaoi, gay anime porn. I told her multiple times that she was welcome to read whatever she wanted, but I'm not interested in that stuff. She never listened and said we should share interests. After months of this, I was starting to get fed up with it. I tried to talk to her about it and she would always guilt-trip me into dropping it. This was also the time that the Legbeard really began to reveal itself. She never bathed now, and also began sending me hentai links and yaoi pictures. About halfway through freshman year, I started gaining confidence. I realized I didn't have to do things I didn't want just to please people. So one day I sat down with her and I broke up with her. She seemed to handle it well, so I thought it was all well. Little did I know, I just started a storm of trouble. RLB started talking a lot behind my back. We had a group of mutual friends that we both hung out with. When I was around, she would act civil, not friendly, but nice enough to avoid awkwardness. However, when I wasn't around, she would say how I mistreated her. I only heard bits and pieces from people, but never really cared too much. During sophomore year, I had a crush on a girl, Kay. Kay was someone I had known for a while. We started talking and I thought everything was going all right. Until one day, she wasn't responding to my texts. I wasn't too worried. I thought she must be busy. I didn't expect her to text me at all times. This continued for a week. Eventually, she did text back. She said she didn't want to date me. She said it just wasn't the right time. I was hurt, but I understood. Later I learned this wasn't the reason. A few weeks later I started getting some looks from people. I started asking around, and I learned a rumor was spread that I tried to use K for sex. I was still a little innocent virgin, so I had no idea where that rumor came from. I eventually traced it back to RLG and K. They had apparently met and started trying to ruin my reputation. They started saying how horrible I was. They said these things to my friend who knew it was bullshit. It hurt my feelings, but I still didn't care. If that's what they wanted to do, then let them. No one I cared about believed them, so whatever. Eventually, however, it escalated into them saying I was the kind of person who would rape someone and say they deserve it. They never claimed I raped anyone, but they said I had that kind of personality. That cut deep. I always tried my best to be kind to people. I never wanted to give off a bad vibe. So for someone to say I seemed like that kind of person hurt me bad. Mutual friends started asking RLG why she hated me so much still. This all was sophomore year, a year after the breakup. She always made up something about me mistreating her and how I tried to use K for sex. She didn't know I learned it was her spreading rumors, so one day she texted me.
Hey, it's Sue.
Hey.
I have something to tell you. I still love you and I want to be with you.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Why not?
It was then that I told her I knew everything she had said about me. She tried apologizing and saying it was all K, but I wouldn't have any of it. The rumors crossed the line and I was done. I told her I was dating someone else, which I was. I'm still dating her. That's when she went off. She said I only use people. She called me every name in the book. I simply ignored the texts and went on with my life. To this day, she still talks shit about me. It's died down a lot. She ditched the friend group and got with a different clique. They all hate me, and I think you can guess why. Maybe this doesn't show the full extent of her legbeardiness. Part 1. The Insufferable Introduction. I had my first unfortunate meeting with Guitar Beard in my second to last semester of college at the music school where I was studying audio engineering. I was meeting an acquaintance to pick up an audio interface he wanted me to fix. Guitar Beard was a friend of this acquaintance. He was thin, lanky, and slightly taller than my 5'6", with a bearded neck trench coat if I remember right, and a tendency to stare at people for an uncomfortably long time. He spoke with what sounded to me like an American's attempt at a Yorkshire accent. He immediately sat down between us and began trying to steer the conversation towards the genre of music he thought was the best, progressive metal. We were at a music school, so this would have been pretty normal, except he seemed desperate for everyone to know how intellectual he was as a musician. He kept saying things like, "People just don't get prog," and say it's just emotionless wanking on a guitar. But I just understand the nuanced emotions about them. I asked him what emotions he felt when he listened to that music, and he told me they were both vague and specific. I had better things to do than continue a conversation like this, so I made an excuse to leave as quickly as possible. The next time I saw Guitar Beard, I was with my boyfriend, who we'll call A for the sake of this story. A is 6 feet, has a non-neck beard, and is a beast of a drummer. He is originally from England and sounds like it, although his family has lived in the US for a while. Guitar Beard literally bounded over to us from across the room and interrupted our conversation to ask us if we heard a police car outside. A said he hadn't, but as soon as Guitar Beard heard him talk, he nearly interjected with, "Hey, you have the same thing I have. Like you kinda have a British accent, but not really." A and I both looked at him and shook our heads, as this was definitely not true. He proceeded to explain that he had family in England, but didn't really have any connections there. A said, "Well, I'm dual national, so..." and shrugged at him. We left to go to lunch, laughing about how he basically said A's accent was fake for no reason. Then A mentioned something else about the situation. "Did you notice where he was looking the entire time you were talking to him?" he said. "He was looking you up and down the entire time. He only glanced at me suspiciously." I had to confirm this with A about 5 times because I could barely believe him. I might be neckbait, but I could hardly believe he would check me out without any attempt to be covert about it. I thought it was pretty funny, honestly. However, at this point in time, Guitar Beard was only a minor nuisance, and we were blissfully unaware of the monster he would become. Part 2. The Wronged Roommate. Here's a little context for this next part of the story. At the time, I was almost done with my degree in audio engineering, but I had realized that while I enjoyed recording music, I could see that it was not the right career for me in the long term. I have talent and a true passion for mathematics, and I'm going to go to grad school for math after I finish my bachelor's degree at this school. Because of this, I have been furiously studying math in my off time from school. During my next encounter with Guitar Beard, I was reading Richard Curran's differential and integral calculus. I could see he was sitting across from me in the lobby of our school's dorm, and I was trying my best to avoid him. I only had to wait a few more minutes until A picked me up to go to the gym. "What are you reading?" Guitar Beard asked. This time his accent was more intense but sounded just as fake as before. I told him what it was, and in accordance with his next questions, I began explaining the proof of the value of E given in the first chapter of the book. As soon as I had finished a simple explanation, he gave me a smug grin. "You know Black Maelstrom?" he said condescendingly. "If you focused on this math stuff more than you did on your music, you could really be good at it." At this point in time, I was completely devoted to studying math and was spending 2 to 3 hours a day writing proofs, deriving formulas, and doing practice problems. Plus, since I was an audio engineering major, my studies had little to do with actually playing or writing music. Guitar Beard's ignorant words infuriated me, but I managed to sputter out something like, "Yeah, that's pretty much the plan." Just then, A appeared and greeted me with a tight hug and a louder than usual, "Hey, babe." It seemed practically directed at Guitar Beard, and I was saved from further interactions with him. I recounted all of my unfortunate run-ins with Guitar Beard to my friend S, who played guitar in A's metal band, Vengeance. He thought it was all hilarious, but he stopped me as soon as I mentioned Guitar Beard's name to make a shocking revelation. "Wait, Guitar Beard?" he said. "That's my roommate." I was fascinated yet horrified. S had told me about his terrible roommate before, but when he told me this, all the details began to line up in my head. Of course, as soon as I opened this can of worms, he began dishing out the horrid details of living with Guitar Beard. The Beard would wake up around 7 AM every day, and do his tonal harmony homework by loudly singing the music. He would slam doors and continue to sing through the apartment with no regard for anyone who was still asleep. At night, he would noodle on his guitar, cranking the amp loud enough that S would not be able to hear his computer, even if it was right next to him. Every time S complained about the noise level, Guitar Beard would tell him he was being unreasonable and that he should just wear headphones. Guitar Beard had a scholarship to our school for his guitar playing, but how he got it was a mystery to all of us. His favorite things to play were Guthrie Govan-style tapping licks, which he would attempt to play as fast as possible at the expense of both tone and rhythm. This unfortunate pastime could hardly be referred to as practicing. Whenever S tried to jam with him on the guitar, he was completely unable to keep time. He claimed he wanted to be a jazz composition major, but he didn't even have the most basic knowledge of jazz history or famous players. His hygiene was also impressively poor. He always smelled like sweat, and when A and I came over to S's apartment to play Smash Bros, the bathroom sink was clogged with a mountain of hair from his failed attempts to shave his neckbeard. I once ran into him on a day when A had given me some flowers, and he said, "Ah, I see you're giving someone flowers." I told him they were a gift from my boyfriend, and his response was a somewhat defeated, "Oh, is it that guy?" "Yeah, A, you met him before," I told him. He seemed to panic for a second before saying, I'm actually getting flowers for a girl today too. We're going on a date tonight." A and S were both convinced that he had a crush on me, and that he was lying in order to recover from finding out I was taken, which he really should have known by then. However, remarkably enough, he actually did bring a girl over to his and S's apartment that night. S told me he played songs for her on his keyboard for a while and made cringy attempts to brag about his musical skills, then tried to convince her to attend a party with his friends. When she said she didn't want to, he ended up ditching her to go to the party anyway. But these friends of Guitar Beard's turned out to be the worst of all. They all played in a band we called the Dipshits, and they compounded the annoyance of dealing with Guitar Beard to such a degree that they are worthy of their very own section to this story. Part 3. The Dipshits. My friends and I had all recently returned from Christmas break, and I was beginning my final semester at the music school. For my final project as an audio engineering major, I would have to work with a band or artist to produce an entire EP. Unsurprisingly, I chose A and S's band, Vengeance. At my school, the audio engineering program has you focus heavily on being a music producer as well as an engineer. While engineers typically handle the technical side of recording, like setting up mics and running a console, producers are usually more concerned with getting the best performance out of the artists. I always enjoyed the technical classes at my school more than the artsy-focused ones, so being purely a producer was not exactly my cup of tea, but I figured I'd enjoy helping my friends get their music out there. It had been nice to get away from Guitar Beard and the Dipshits for a while over winter break, but now he was spending even more time with the Dipshits, things got even worse for S at their apartment. One night, Guitar Beard invited the Dipshits over to do homework, which really meant smoking, drinking, and talking so loud that S couldn't hear himself practice, even with headphones. After thoroughly annoying him the whole night, one of the Dipshits came knocking on S's door to ask him to trek out into the snow to buy them some more alcohol, since he was the only one who was of legal age to buy it. When he refused, they just kept pestering him. S would tell me all the annoying things the Dipshits did over text, so I had seen their destructive power from a distance. But the time soon came where I would experience it myself. It all started during Live to 2 week. One of the first projects all audio engineering majors must do is produce a Live to 2, which is a recording where all instruments are recorded only on one 2-channel stereo track. The project is considered pretty tough for everyone since recording with only 2 channels means individual instruments can't be edited later. Each Live to 2 producer must team up with a senior student to engineer the session for them, since they'll have their hands full getting a whole band to show up and play live. The senior engineers are usually picked from the 2 400-level classes, one of which I was taking that semester. I often got called on to engineer Live to 2s, and since there is usually a shortage of engineers, I did several for both semesters of my senior year, and actually really enjoy them. I find the high pressure of getting everything to sound good on one stereo track exhilarating, and I like helping out students who are just starting the major. I was eating with A in a pizza place when a student I recognized came in. He was the same one whose audio interface I was working on. Let's call him Z for the sake of this story. Anyway, Z was working on his Live to 2, and when he saw me in the restaurant, he asked if I would be able to engineer it. When asked when the recording was, he said it was Sunday night from 2 to 6 a.m. Many students have to record late at night since the studios are used for classes during the day. I told him that I already had a Live to 2 from 2 to 6 a.m. on Saturday night, and didn't think it would be a good idea to pull 2 all-nighters in a row, but if he couldn't find someone else, I would do it anyway. He was happy with this and began to tell me about the band. And if you were about to guess that he was working with the Dipshits, you would be absolutely right. Also, you might have predicted Z did not find another engineer, and I was bracing myself for the second of 2 consecutive all-nighters. I was preparing to leave my house on the last bus to school, and got my first warning that my sleep deprivation wouldn't be the only challenge I would face. Z texted me about an hour before the session, saying that the Dipshits didn't have access to a drum kit. He asked me if they could borrow A's kit. At this point, it's almost 1 a.m., A is asleep, and his kit is at his studio in a different city. I say no, and head to school wondering if we are going to record drums at all. At this point, I knew the session was going to be painful to get through, especially when the first person I saw when I showed up was Guitarbeard. This recording session was by far the worst of any I have ever engineered, and would be worthy of its very own cringe story. But since I'm trying to keep things reasonably brief, here's a few highlights. Z paying the drummer from another session to borrow his jazz kit after he was done recording. The Dipshits are a lo-fi punk band, so this was definitely not a fit. Guitarbeard showing up to be an assistant but actually just hovering around me the entire time and plugging in a couple cables backwards. Guitarbeard leaving after 30 minutes of assisting and saying he was leaving me in charge, despite the fact that as the engineer I was already second in command and already in charge of his sorry ass. All of Z's assistants coming to the session high and having no idea how to do anything useful. For example, they all placed the mic on the guitar cab sideways, got unreasonably confused about where to plug in the drum mics, and had to be told how to record an electric guitar. All of Z's assistants hanging out in the control room after we finished setting up and talking so loud I had to yell at them before I could check mics. The band insisting that the bass sound both distorted and like an 808 at the same time, and only settling down when I boosted the bass 8 decibels, making everything sound muddy. The lyrics to the song including the phrase, "You're too pussy for suicide." The bassist not knowing what effect pedals were or how to play bass. The entire band doing little to help put away equipment after the session and bragging about doing shrooms and DMT. The entire band complaining about how they actually had to pay the drummer whose kit they borrowed. And that is just scratching the surface. About a week later, this band actually made news headlines for a shocking publicity stunt they pulled when they played a show at our school's cafeteria. Everyone at the school seemed to be throwing a fit about it. I had slept off the terrible recording session and had an absolute ball telling the story to everyone I knew. The fact that I had recorded the band that caused a school-wide flame war only added to the hilarity. So yes, they kept me up all night being absolute, well, dipshits. But considering the aftermath, I didn't mind too much. At least not until they began to mess with the band I was working with. Vengeance was preparing to go into the studio in the next week to start recording their EP. They were practicing hard every week, and as a producer I would show up to rehearsals as well so I could make plans with them. As anyone who's ever tried to start a band would know, the most difficult part is getting all the people in the same place. A and the rhythm guitarist N were roommates, and we saw S pretty much every day, so it was easy to coordinate between the three of them and myself. But during the first few rehearsals, the vocalist and bassist both had something come up. For this week's rehearsal, we were absolutely sure we would have drums, both guitars and vocals, but Guitarbeard and the Dipshits would make sure that wasn't the case. Before heading to the rehearsal with A, I was studying math in the library. That's when I received an ominous text from S. "The Dipshits might be here," it said. S had already told Guitarbeard that he did not want to see the Dipshits in the house again after their last visit. but Guitarbeard must have been intent on displaying his subpar comprehension skills once again. I was focused, so I didn't see this message until it was followed by an even more concerning one. Okay, they are here, and I'm actually tempted to call the cops and punch Guitarbeard in the face tomorrow. I'd heard enough morbid Guitarbeard stories that I told Az he would be justified in punching him now. In fact, I was beginning to think I would need to punch him myself. Apparently, Guitarbeard had decided to invite all of the dipshits over to his house for studying, which really meant loud conversation and excessive 420 activities. Provided this was a basement apartment with little ventilation, this did not agree with S's asthma at all. In fact, he specifically told Guitarbeard that he couldn't smoke in the apartment. Guitarbeard found a loophole by saying that he did not personally smoke, and then inviting over people who did. S tried to confront them and tell them to leave, but he was wheezing too badly to talk to them. I was angry with Guitarbeard and the dipshits already, but this pushed me over the edge. To talk down to me and keep me up all night recording stupid music is one thing, but to disturb my friends that badly is another. I told S he would be justified in calling the cops if they didn't leave soon, and that I couldn't believe that they were knowingly causing him health problems. I was about to go over there myself when he told me the dipshits finally left. He was going to be alright, but the asthma attack stopped him from coming to rehearsal that night. I was fuming. I thought it would be petty to get revenge on Guitarbeard and the dipshits, but I wasn't about to bother myself with it. But I swore that I would do everything in my power to make the Vengeance EP sound as good as possible. Maybe introducing a competent band to the population of my school would undo the damage the dipshits have done to the reputation of extreme music here. S never punched Guitarbeard like I desperately wanted him to, but he did give him a piece of his mind the next morning about the noise and smoking. Since then, he barely shows his face at the apartment and mostly stays with friends. Guitarbeard is terrified of both S and A and runs away when he sees either of them in public. I think it is in his best interest to continue doing that. P.S. I have recently heard from S that Guitarbeard has begun staying at the apartment again, this time bringing his girlfriend along with him. How on earth he got a girl to agree to a relationship with him is beyond all understanding. But all this says to me is that there might still be another chapter in the Guitarbeard saga. 3. Enter Player 1, Backbeard. So when I was in high school back in the early noughties, the term neckbeard and weeb didn't exist. We just used the terms loser or nerd. I had a friend who looking back was, and probably still is, a major neckbeard, right down to the actual neckbeard. This guy was cringy as hell, but we were freshmen and sophomores, so who's not, right? I really can't think of any good examples from when we were in school. That was almost 2 decades ago, but our story takes place in the mid-noughties after graduation. Why the drawn-out backstory that wasn't? Well, the summer before junior year, my friend, let's call him Backbeard or BB, and his family got relocated because of his dad's job from the Midwest to Alaska. And I kind of lost touch with old BB. Fast forward, BB and I are now freshmen in college. And thanks to MSN Messenger, BB and I catch up and end up playing some crappy online RPG game I forget the name of. BB has always had back problems and wore a brace because of it, and was on pain pills. He spent all his time complaining about his back and his pills. He had an addiction to the pills at this point, and how no women wanted him. And on the off chance he wasn't talking about his troubles, he only talked about anime and video games. Enter Player 2, Orchid. As I've said, BB and I played this dumb RPG. On the game, BB met another player. Call her Orchid. Now Orchid lives in the Midwest, and they never met in real life. Our fine hero BB falls hard for Orchid, probably because she is a genuinely nice person and didn't tell him off. I figured that was because his RPG character was also sad and mopey. BB does the classic nice guy thing and sends her a rather expensive necklace for her birthday. Orchid, of course, returns it. Now, I haven't been playing the game long at this point, but I have met Orchid in the game. It was a small player community, and she knows I know BB from the old days. So she tells me about the situation, looking for advice. BB has been talking about her coming to meet him and dating and whatnot. Just completely weirds out Orchid. BB just won't take no for an answer, and keeps pushing the issues and tries to guilt trip her for not keeping the necklace. Orchid breaks off contact with BB finally over all this. Oh boy, do I get to hear all about it. He hits all the classic nice guy tropes, tells me she's ruining the game for him, that all women are the same. He even talks about taking so many of his pills and ODing. So I tell him to get some help, of course, and wish him luck because this is finally where I've had enough, and tell him I can't deal with his problems any longer. Nowadays I'm not sure what old BB is up to. We aren't friends on Facebook or anything, and his Facebook is pretty well dead. Other than I think he became a Brawny. Orchid and I would talk off and on for a lot of years before we actually met in real life. We got married last year, and are expecting our first child. So sometimes having to deal with a neckbeard actually pays off in the end. 4. Well, hello everyone, my name is Mike, and this is my story about being harassed by a neckbeard, the regular nice guy, fedora-wearing type we all loathe, but gay. First I will describe myself. I'm barely 6 feet tall, light-skinned Latino, Mexican, somewhat hairy and muscular. I work out a lot, but I'm very insecure of my body since I was obese as a teen. I am also very nerdy, but didn't frequent Pokemon Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and other card and video game gatherings and tournaments. This changed one year, and this is where I met the bane of my existence for years to come. Gaybeard. We'll call him that because even writing his name makes me angry. Our first interaction was in a "What's your favorite Pokemon" post, which I responded with Charizard because I really like it, as Charmander was the first Pokemon I had in Pokemon Red several years ago. Out of nowhere he commented with, "Kek, what a poser." Kek is the equivalent of LOL in World of Warcraft. I just commented, "Huh?" And he went on explaining why my choice was inferior, and based on the popularity of the character rather than the potential of the Pokemon. I was a bit surprised and confused, but just shrugged it off, and didn't comment on that particular post anymore. The Pokemon group had an upcoming tournament where the rules were that you could use any Pokemon of only one type in your team. I chose Bug, and I went on fighting and got to finals alongside Gaybeard. I'm going to describe him. He's 6 feet and a few inches taller than me. He's as fat as he is tall, with man boobs, dirty and uncared beard. He has the palest skin ever, messy, tangled and greasy hair. He has bad BO and is always wearing a fedora. Gaybeard has chosen ground types, which are very strong, but Bug resists or is immune to their attacks. And while he put a very good fight, despite being at a disadvantage, he ended up losing. He was visibly mad. "Who in their right mind would choose Bug types?" he said. I just repelled with, "Well, I like them. They're not the strongest, but I try to make them work." He just scoffed and stormed out. The prize was 2 keychain charms and some candy. I received them and went to Gaybeard and say, "Hey, good game, want the candy?" He looks insulted. "Is it because I'm fat?" "No, it's because I don't eat white chocolate anyways, and I thought you played very well." "So it's pity then?" "No, dude, chill, it's just a game." "Oh my god, Gaybeard, have the chocolate. It has so many carbs for me, and you're a fat loser anyways." Okay. That was not at all what I thought. You're projecting. And just to set things clear, I don't mind carbs. I just prefer regular chocolate, and thought of bringing you this since I'm not going to eat it. My bad, won't happen again. After that, I just went to my friends and gave the chocolate to them. One of the admins bought me a regular chocolate bar since I told him I didn't like white chocolate. We went on exchanging and battling Pokemon. The next day in the Facebook group, this happened. Admin post. "Just want to congratulate Mike, who showed us that despite a type being considered weak, it can still thrive alongside the rest." I just responded with something along the lines of, "Yeah, bug types can be awesome. If anyone needs level 1s of any of my bugs, I still have a bunch to give." And got many requests for them. All was peaceful until Gaybeard appeared. "He was just lucky he fought against grunt types in the finale." "Not necessarily. Before he battled you, he won against a steel and 2 fire type teams. Those teams have an advantage to bug types." Had it not been for that damn spider, I'd have crushed those bugs. You should ban it for upcoming events. It's plain cheating and unfair. The spider he's referring to is Gallavantula, which has a move called Sticky Web, which lowers the speed of the contrary team for the entire battle, if you don't remove it. Since there are many ways to counter the spider and its web, this strategy is not broken, and is a legit way to slow down your opponent, so we won't likely ban it, but we'll consider it if you request it formally, and the group votes in favor of the ban. I didn't respond to any of his comments. He never requested a ban of the spider. He must have known people would not ban something that could be countered easily. Again, peace. That was until Pride Month arrived. Our Facebook group changed the picture to Ho-Oh, the rainbow Pokemon. But some people, Gaybeard among them, wanted another picture. One which had Pokemon sliding down rainbows. I had commented on the post. Terrible mistake. I actually like the Ho-Oh picture better. Shut up, you're not even LGBT. Your argument isn't valid. I'm actually gay, Gaybeard. Liar! How come I have never seen you with anyone, or in Pride? I don't have to explain myself to you, but I don't go to Pride events because there are too many people for me to handle and, well, I don't have a boyfriend. By the same logic, I've never seen you with someone. How can I know you're not lying about being LGBT? We should kiss to break the tension. He posts a gif of a guy licking his lips. I'd rather kiss a cactus. Why would you not kiss me? No, you're right. We should kiss, of course. I'd want to kiss the person who mocks me, calls me a cheater, and labels my choices inferior. He stopped commenting, but I received a message request from him. I had not added him on Facebook by this time. Hello, Mike. Look, I am very sorry for the chocolate incident. I thought you were making fun of me because I lost or was fat. Of course, Gaybeard, no problem. I really never meant to insult you. Is it okay if I add you on Facebook? I don't see the problem, Gaybeard. I was a stupid, clueless fuck. He added me, and I approved his request, and because I was tired, I said goodbye and went to sleep early. I'm a heavy sleeper, and normally the vibration of my phone, because of a Facebook notification, won't wake me up. But this was one after the other for 5 or more minutes straight. I stood up, turned my phone off, and went back to sleep some more. Oh my god! During the night, he must have liked every goddamn post I made, every damn picture I shared, and every fucking photo I was in. Some from 2007. I also had some messages including a shirtless picture of him tipping his fedora, and a dick pic, which you couldn't clearly see because of the fat rolls, with the caption, "You look cuter on your knees sucking this." I didn't know what to say, I was awestruck. And before I even got to write anything, he wrote me a, "Good morning, handsome." Dude, you liked everything! Yeah. Heart emojis. I also commented. Like he was proud of it. Yes, I saw. Dude, some of those posts and pictures are from 8 years ago. He ignores me. Did you like the pictures? My cock awaits those sweet lips of yours. WTF? Okay, look, Gaybeard. I'm going to be very straight with you. I'm flattered, but I don't like you that way. We can be friends, but I'm not interested in you romantically or sexually. But you said you didn't have a boyfriend. And I do not, but I like someone, and I want to see if he likes me back. Who is it? Angry emojis. It's kinda personal, Gaybeard, I hope you understand. Aren't we friends? You can tell me. I haven't told anyone, I'm not sure I ever will, please stop insisting. It is Daniel, right? Daniel is a straight friend of mine, a gym buddy, very nerdy as well. Why stupid, and here he used a homosexual slur, like you always go for the dumb jocks. Have fun injecting each other with steroids and AIDS. You're not even that hot, I'm sure he doesn't even love you. You're probably only his cum dumpster. You probably already have AIDS, given the slut you are and all the steroids you take. I didn't say anything. I was just amazed by this guy. I proceeded to block him and thought that was the end of things. I was wrong. So wrong. I knew by other people that Gaybeard was talking shit about me and then asking them to apologize to me on his behalf. They mostly called him crazy or ignored him. Some people actually followed his request, but after talking to me, it was clear he was just insane. Some weeks passed by and my aforementioned friend Daniel entered a Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament in a local bookstore. And while I do not know jack shit about that game, I still went to the tables to watch him play, and oh boy! He was playing against Gaybeard in one of the first matches. They were shuffling each other's decks and Gaybeard looked up, saw me, pointed in my direction and said out loud, "I'll win for you, my love." I was red from embarrassment and Daniel just laughed. Gaybeard then looked in his direction and said, "Filth like you doesn't deserve him." Daniel had a puzzled look, but nothing else. They played 2 out of 3 rounds and Gaybeard won. Daniel extended his hand to congratulate Gaybeard, but he scoffed and looked at me and raised both his arms as if wanting a hug. I turned around and went somewhere else. Daniel and I went to buy some stuff, but returned to the store as Daniel needed to return a card he borrowed from someone from the tournament. While he was talking to his friend, like a fat bird of prey, hell descended upon me. Gaybeard put his smelly pit against my neck and had me turn the other direction. He was very sweaty and reeking of death. He posed with me for a picture. The photographer in turn looked confused and said, "Smile?" Gaybeard smiled widely, and with his free arm displayed a card in a plastic case. He had won the tournament, apparently. I was just paralyzed from his smelly arm and could not move. Finally, I find the strength to get him off of me, while the guy taking the picture scurried away. "What the fuck is your problem?" "I won, and you're my ultimate prize." He opens his arms and goes toward me. "Get the fuck away from me, you absolute freak," I said, screaming. People turned to see us. "If you're still mad about the other day, please forgive my behavior. I was—" "No, Gaybeard, no. I forgave the past incidents since they're not as big a deal. But then you just called me those horrible things. We cannot be friends. I'm sorry." "Please understand." "No, Gaybeard. I won't forgive you in a million fucking years. Please leave me alone. I'm serious." "Nobody will love you the way I do." "Well, good, because your love sickens me, Gaybeard." "Slut teasing my cock, pretending to want me?" "Where did you get the impression I wanted you?" "Offering me chocolate, and then responding to me on Facebook." "I was just being nice." Daniel walks up. "Hey, is everything alright?" Gaybeard turns towards Daniel. "You are scum, and guilty of putting Mike against me. He doesn't know he loves me because of you." "Is it true, Mike, that I stole your heart from the greasy hands of MacLeod right here?" "Don't encourage him, Dan. Let's go." We exited the store quickly while Gaybeard kept shouting stuff at us. I then told Daniel everything that happened. He was laughing so hard I ended up laughing it off too. 5. It was in the early, angsty years of high school that I had the displeasure of meeting a neckbeard. Let's call him Lord Beard. He lacked the physical textbook neckbeard look. He was in fact on the suave side of the spectrum. Fit, well-kept, and socially outgoing. But what he lacked in looks he most certainly made up for in personality. It wasn't until the years that followed our graduation that I spoke more than a simple hello or hi to him. I was far from talkative in school. I was often teased and would eat lunch away from the others. It was a small country town, and I was fresh meat, and there wasn't anything inherent wrong with me aside from my thin stature. I had mousy brown hair and dark brown eyes, pale skin, and stood at 5'11". Lord Beard was the tallest of our cohort, a sandy blonde kid standing 6'2", bearing a sly, toothy grin and an intense blue-eyed gaze to match. A lot of people found him overbearing to be friends with. He had no awareness of personal space, and you would often hear people complaining about how creepy he would be to some of the girls. I would hear rumors about him fantasizing about one girl in particular, and this girl was my best friend B. He was obsessed with her, so much so that he cornered her and pinned her against the science block before planting an uninvited kiss. She was a small, adorable blonde girl with untamed curls, that she would barely manage under the hair accessories that adorned her head. We admitted to one another at the time being bi-curious, but nothing eventuated between us on the basis that we saw each other as nothing more than good friends. Lord Beard happened to overhear this and piped up with much excitement. "Oh, now that is something I would pay to see." I knew he would have added the idea of us to his fap bank, and I shivered at the thought. He stood beside me with an eerie grin before we cringed away. I did everything I could to protect Bea from him as much as I could, but his perseverance for her was unrivaled. He had a crush on a number of girls, that being myself, Bea, and another girl, let's call her Crystal. Never actually knew Crystal personally, except through the thirsty ramblings of Lord Beard himself. He showed my other friends what Crystal looked like one time, but I never saw the DP. She was apparently bisexual and very forward with people online if she fancied them. It wasn't until 3 years after graduating high school that Crystal contacted me, saying I was a suggested friend and lived in the same city. And no doubt Lord Beard was right about her forwardness. At that point in my life I regarded myself as straight and made it clear, to which she replied, "Spaghetti is straight until it gets wet." Okay. Anytime I would try to steer the conversation into PG territory, she would ask questions like, "You ever fooled around? You ever fucked a girl before? Show me you being a swan, baby. Be my girlfriend. I just want a girl I can get lots of cuddles and fuck anytime I want." All of these questions were sprinkled among my replies, which were either left unseen or answered sparingly, since I didn't know her. Months would pass and I would receive the occasional message from her, only to leave it unseen out of fear she would pipe up again. Her excessive use of emojis would make me die a little inside. Though I was of millennial descent, I can't stand it when I read text littered with trash emoticons. Her persistence must have wavered in reflection of her last attempt at conversation, which was a year ago. Phase to present time. I ran into Lord Beard and caught up with him like acquaintances normally would. I blocked him earlier in the year, resulting from his crude messages to me, though he knew I was in a relationship at the time. In the lead up to blocking him, I would show my boyfriend the things he said, and he would chime in some hilarious replies and roast to shut down Lord Beard's pathetic attempts. I feel ill. I've got some medicine that could help with that. A little of my vitamin D should solve your ills. I recoil in horror. I have some medicine for you too. Sends a JPEG image of bleach. Wow, really fucking insensitive. I'm sorry, but every time you talk to me, you talk shit. I was trolling you. You didn't get the message. I will king hit you if you ever talk perverted to me again. Whatever, mate. Have a good night. I was fuming. Of all things he reacted with, it was anger because I was insensitive. I don't understand his line of thinking. He asks blunt, disgusting crap and thinks it's not insensitive behavior. What? After all that, I still managed to forgive him for what he said when he saw me. Looking back at it, I regret unblocking him, for the events that followed got worse. Much, much worse. His messages weren't remotely deviant at first, but he would occasionally ask a question about girls, as if asking for advice about their perception of sex. I saw no issue in answering questions of that nature, so long as they weren't directed at me. A week or so into the uni semester, and being on good terms with Lord Beard again, I asked him about Crystal, since I initially knew of her through him. He said he's not heard of her in a while, and he's frustrated that she wasn't attracted to him, and conversation broke off from there. I felt something wasn't right after then. She messaged me some really whack stuff a few days ago. Oh, like what? I explained to him what she said in the past, and that she messaged me a couple of days ago. Lord Beard appeared surprised. No dice, I still don't know who the hell she is. I turned to a friend of mine who knew of Crystal in school when Beard Boy would speak of her. We both worked out similarities between him and Crystal, from the way they both wrote in emojis as if it were Egyptian hieroglyphs, to the use of X's and O's at the end of most sentences. Lord Beard and her messages also piped up when I forgave Lord Beard. I was mortified. Crystal and Lord Beard were the same person. We had proof too. That email that Crystal used for her account was the same university email as Lord Beard's when you would try to log in as her. A few reverse image searches of Crystal's profile revealed nothing. Whose photos was he using? I still don't know. I was set on catching Lordbeard impersonating an imaginary hot girl. I replied to her message as if I didn't know it was Lordbeard himself. I shivered at the thought of that smelly, grotesque catfish sitting on the other side of his screen, knowing full well what he was engaging in. You know, maybe we should finally get together.
Get together? That can mean two things.
Well, I'm single now, so I guess experimenting wouldn't hurt.
Ooh, how about some saucy pics of you so I know what I'm going to be tapping first, baby?
I'm more like a wrapped present. You don't know what you're getting till it's unwrapped. That's the mystery about me, she begs. Okay, you first, though. I knew full well they weren't going to be of the girl in the DP. Even if they were, I would have made her hold up a certain item to make sure they weren't pre-taken. Crystal sends pics of boob cleavage without face. Where's your face, babe? Crystal inserts a story saying she doesn't show her face. In the same instant, I get a message from Lordbeard asking why I don't reply to him anymore, why I don't find him attractive. I was shocked at first, thinking maybe it wasn't him, but Lordbeard must be switching between accounts akin to a ninja. I got bored of both Lordbeard's and Crystal's antics and dropped the bomb by sending Crystal a photo of his email address as the login details for Crystal's Facebook, containing his last name and first initial. Get wrecked, you catfishing hunk of junk. P.S. It's been a couple years since this story unfolded. It's my 3rd year of college, and week 1 where I live, and guess whose presence I was graced with at the lecture. That's right, the shit-eating man himself, Lordbeard. He tried barging in on a conversation I had with my friends, and I knew then and there that my trolling feat with him was not over. You'll be hearing from me again. Yours truly, Minx. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Neckbeards in the Wild, number 26. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. Okay, a bit later than I expected this one, but we got it together in the end, although it was a bit difficult. There was one story I'd got that was a Neckbeard story, but I was halfway through recording and I started thinking, you know, this is definitely Neckbeardy, but it's really more of a let's not meet. And I continued on recording and thinking, you know, this might be too harsh even for a let's not meet, some of the places it was heading. But that's more my own comfort level. Okay, I'm gonna get back to making these videos and hopefully I can get a relaxed weekend. We shall see. And with that, I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.